Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, good morning. I hope you are always in optimal condition and enthusiastic in our discussion of today's material. Before that, allow me to introduce the group members who will present today's material. The first is Riko Bagus Aditya. The second is Muhammad Syakif Fawaid. The third, Safia Rahma Aziza. The fourth, Nur Sabrina Rahmawati. The fifth, dari Nanggari Putri. And the last is Vindi Octavio Budi. Alright guys, in today's discussion, we will present a material entitled Constituents. Well, the submaterials list includes the definition itself and also various ways to analyzing sentences that are included in the constituent category or not. So, what are we waiting for? Let's get started the material. I hope you enjoy it, guys.
The first one is, what is definition syntax? Syntax is about the study of sentence structure. For example, the student loved their syntax assignment. The notion that the and student are closely related to one another is captured by the fact that they are as a part of a bigger unit that contains them, but not other words. Then the next slide is regarding to our topic discussion today. What is definition about constituency? Constituency is a group of words that function together as a unit. Constituency is the most important and basic notion in syntactic theory. The next slide is, there are several tests that we will use to analyze constituency. The first one is question and answer. The second one is cleft sentence. The third one is proform substitution.
My name is dari Nanggari Putri, and in this part, I will explain to you about constituency in Q&A tests. Like after explaining the definition, if constituent is a group of words that function together as a unit, and we need to have some sort of test to see if a group of words is a constituent or not. That is, do a group of words actually act together as a unit? So we going to talk about 4 very basic tests that we can use to check constituency, and from some of them I will explain about the Q&A tests. The constituent can be morpheme, word, phrase, and clause. Every sentence and every phrase and clause has constituent. That is, each sentence is made up of other parts that work together to make a meaningful sentence. However, in this Q&A, every set of words that can stand alone in answering a question or vice versa, every series of words that can be questioned as a whole is the constituent. And also, for Q&A, the constituent if the answer match what was asked. Same as this example shown, Udin doesn't like a story about Atlantic Island on his graduation, so he doesn't write it. The question is, what did Udin doesn't like? So the answer must be a story about Atlantic Island. This is constituent because a story about Atlantic Island here is a set of words that can stand alone in answering a question. And this answer is matched with what was asked. So from this sentence, we can also have a question like, why Udin doesn't write it? So the answer must be Udin doesn't like it, or because Udin doesn't like it. Let's we compare with this second example with the same sentence and the same question with different answer. The answer, a story about Atlantic Island on his graduation, is a not constituent because the answer is not matched with what was asked. Because one of the reasons for the constituent in Q&A is that the answer must match what was asked. This does not merely argue that these are constituent in the elite answer from given above, but in the full sentence from which these are apparently derived, or in short, the essence of the sentence. The essence of this sentence is Udin doesn't like a story about Atlantic Island. Udin doesn't write it. So we can see that this group of words actually work together. So I think just that from me. And the next material will be continued by my friend. Thank you.
Okay, in this slide we have another example. Here there are two example sentences. It can be seen that the first example sentence is constituent, while the second example sentence is not constituent. How can be like that? As explained on the previous slide, that if a string of word is a constituent, it's usually grammatical for it to stand alone as the answer of the question based on the sentence. In the first sentence, it is a constituent because it can answer a question while retaining the meaning of the original sentence. Different from the second sentence, it's not constituent because it cannot stand alone this answer of the questions.
Okay guys, I'm Nur Sabina Rahmawati. My student ID number is 19320227. Now I will explain about cleft sentences. So cleft sentences is one of the constituent submaterials. A cleft sentence is derived from a simple sentence by dividing it into two clauses. Is a complex sentence or one having a main clause and a dependent clause that has a meaning that could be expressed by a simple sentence. A cleft sentence typically put a particular constituent into focus. As we know that a sentence is a constituent, then you can move it. One of the kind of the movement of this movement is cleft sentences. The structure of cleft sentences is it plus to be plus subject or object plus relative clause. You can follow the it part of the cleft sentence with a place, a prepositional phrase, an adverb or gerund. As you can see in the PowerPoint of our group material, there are two tables. Now we go to the table 1 first and then the table 2. Okay, the table 1, the substring to be tested is Udin doesn't like a story about Atlantic Island on his graduation, so he doesn't write it. And the cleft sentences of the substring is it was a story about Atlantic Island that Udin didn't write it on his graduation. The conclusion of the table 1 is constituent. And now the table 2. There is substring to be tested. Udin doesn't like a story about Atlantic Island on his graduation, so he doesn't write it. The cleft sentences, it was a story on his graduation that he didn't write about Atlantic Island. The conclusion of the table 2 is not constituent. Why it is like that? Why it can be like that? Because the string of words in the focus position of a cleft sentence must be constituent. And in here, the focus is a story about Atlantic Island, whereas the cleft sentences in the table 2 focus is a story on in his graduation. So that is not constituent. As we can see in the table 1, the cleft sentences, it was a story about Atlantic Island. Same with the focus position in the substring, story about Atlantic Island. And the table 2, in the table 2, the cleft sentences, it it was a story on his graduation. A story on his graduation. It's different with the focus position, whereas the focus position is a story about Atlantic Island. That's why the table 1 is constituent and the table 2 is not constituent.
Okay, in this slide we have another example. Here there are two example sentence. It can be seen that the first sentence example is non-constituent while the second sentence example is constituent. How can we like that? As explained on the previous slide, if constituent, it can be moved and still does not ruin the grammatical structure of the sentence. We can see as an example of the sentence, they put the body in the basement. If we move the word in the basement forward, then it will not ruin the grammatical structure and the original meaning of the sentence. Different from if we move word put the body in the forward, it will ruin the grammatical structure and the true meaning of the original sentence.
Okay, next, my name is Shafia Rahmah Aziza, and here I want to explain about pro-form substitution. There are two categories. NP is noun phrase and VP is verb phrase. And the pro form for noun phrase, there are he, she, it, they as pronouns. And the pro form for verb phrase, there are do, did, does, etc. And we're looking at the second table. Category noun phrase and the pro form story about Atlantic Island. It goes to it. And the example, Udin doesn't like to write it on his graduation. It in this example refers to story about Atlantic Island. And second, category verb phrase, the pro form write. It goes to do. And the example, because he doesn't like the story about Atlantic Island, so he doesn't interest to do it. And do in this example refers to write. Thank you.
Okay, in this slide we have another example. Here there are two example sentences. It can be seen that the first example sentence is constituent, while the second example sentence is non-constituent. How can be like that? As explained on the previous slide, that only constituent can be substituted with the pro form, like it, that, them, then, there, do, that way, and each other. We can see in the sentence, a man with the dark glasses is following us. You can see if we just substitute the word a man, it can ruin grammatical structure and not logic comparing the original sentence. Different from if we substitute a word a man with the dark glasses, it will become correct and not ruin the grammatical structure.
The last slide is conclusion. There are hierarchical orders in analyzing sentence. That is to say, words are the constituent, the phrase, and phrase are the constituent of sentence or clause. Furthermore, it is necessary to know the features of the categories as constituents of the own sentence. The features can be used to analyze sentence using those three ways explained above. Alright, thank you for watching our presentation. If there is any question cross your mind, please hit us in forum discussion. We're glad to help you to answer your question.